Excuse me, did you say different worlds? As in plural, Weiss asked in a stunned, almost fearful tone. And this monster is a threat to all of them? Glinda asked, equally concerned. Well, it's definitely a colossal threat, but it can't threaten all of the worlds. It's not exactly a universal threat, or even planetary, actually. And even country level might be a stretch, Razara assured them. But while I do ultimately think you guys could defeat it, it would likely take this entire group to do so. Katana added, That's not exactly putting our worries at ease. Blake told the hostess. Well, that's a shame, because nothing else in this video is gonna do that. Teko said with a mischievous smirk. Sai and Aiden stood determinately in the ruins of Shrade. Fatales. I've come to bargain. Sai declared as it was revealed they were stood before the dark demise. Huh. Doctor Strange reference. Nice. Yang laughed. I'm sorry. Did you miss the part where he wants to bargain with Fatales? An elder dragon who hates all life and wants to destroy everything alive. Weiss demanded in disbelief. What kind of horrific creature could make them desperate enough to come to the greatest threat to all living things for help? Ironwood asked in horror. The dragon laughed darkly at the hunters before it. No. You've come to die, the beast declared menacingly, but then made a noise of curiosity. Though I admit I am curious. What could possibly cause you humans to come to me for aid? The black dragon asked, looking back and forth between the two. Fatales can talk. Nora and RWBY asked in shock. Glinda sighed at this. Girls, it's likely Sai voice acting for Fatales. She told them in a tired tone. Exactly. Rage has done this countless times for other monsters, and I believe Sai's also done it once or twice. Why would Fatales be any different? Winter asked. Oh, hee. Yeah, I guess that's a good point, RWBY said, shifting awkwardly as Nora laughed and rubbed the back of her head sheepishly. Sai didn't falter before the dragon's gaze. An evil force has come to this world and threatens to destroy it. A force possibly even greater than yours. The Sapphire Star informed the beast. They were truly disturbed and frightened when Sai gave this information. A greater threat than Fatales, Ashbin said in horror. There's something more dangerous than the god of all monsters? Ren asked, equally horrified. WL, he did say possibly, so maybe there's a chance it's not quite at Fatales' levels. Penny said, trying to give the crew even a shred of hope this creature wouldn't be a complete nightmare. I really hope you're right, Penny, Velvet said nervously. The dragon was shocked at this, letting out an audible gasp. Preposterous. No force is greater than mine, and destroying the world is my job. Fatales snapped furiously, seeming prepared to eat the hunters. Thankfully, the mood finally lightened a little bit at Fatales' jealousy. Oh. He's got competition? Neo teased. Like the kid who's good at something, but then runs into another kid who's great at that thing. John said with a nod. And they couldn't help but laugh when Fatales claimed it was his job to destroy the world. Oh, yes. Because that's the worst part about all this. Not that the world might be destroyed, no. But that you might not be the one to do it. Blake giggled. Hey, if you're good at something, you want to make a career out of it. So, it's understandable to get a little threatened when someone else muscles in on your turf, Roman said. But once again, Sai stood his ground before the creature. Believe what you want, but I speak the truth. Join us, and we can wipe out this force. Sai granted the offer to the dragon. Okay, as crazy as this idea is, I gotta admit, it'd be cool to team up and fight alongside an actual dragon like Fatales. Especially one as powerful as it is. Coco admitted. I honestly can't disagree. It would be the ultimate thrill rush. Adam agreed. Until the foe is vanquished and Fatales turns on you, Cinder pointed out. One problem at a time. Worry about that when you get there, Crow told her. Fatales couldn't help but chuckle at this. You must be truly desperate to come to me for help, human. My curiosity is piqued. Just what is this creature that you believe is a greater threat than me? The black dragon asked, looking between the hunters in curiosity. Now, it was finally Sai's time to chuckle. Very well, then. Let me tell you about. The host began, before everything went dark. Oh, come on. The entire crew complained all at once. Sai was seen flying around in the depths of space. The universe is vast, with countless incredible beings capable of incredible phenomena past the boundaries of our own world. And even then, there are other dimensions, other realities, where seemingly impossible things are completely normal. The host said in awe as he marveled at the depths of space around him, even as he was being attacked by a humanoid catman. The crew had seen a lot of crazy things that were beyond their belief at this point, but even so, nothing had, or even could, prepare them for seeing the fire demon in the depths of space. What? They all cried out at once. Failing to process, servers overheating. Penny said, her head smoking slightly as she tried to wrap her mechanical mind around what she was witnessing. And Weiss wasn't faring much better, her eye twitching rapidly as she struggled to hold onto her sanity. Still, she at least tried to compose herself, before promptly exploding. Okay.
How?
Just how? He's in the vacuum of space. That shouldn't be possible. She demanded. For humans, yes, that would be impossible. But as I think I've had to remind you for the dozenth time now, my brother and I are demons. A lot of things that would kill most humans don't even bother us. One of those things being the vacuum of space. Katana reminded them. The crew were in awe once again. I know you demons are amazing, but this is just incredible. Emerald said in awe. Now finally starting to get over the initial shock, the crew couldn't help but marvel at the starry surroundings of the host.
He's not wrong, though.
The universe truly is an amazing place. Summer said with stars in her eyes, similar to Ruby when she sees a cool weapon. But wait, is that a humanoid cat? Not even a faunus, that is a straight-up cat that moves like a human. Who is that? Ilya asked in disbelief. And why is he attacking Sai? He seemed to be just minding his business, not doing anything.
Pyrrha said in concern.
Beerus, god of destruction. Arrogant asshole. End of story. Katana answered with a deadpanned expression. The dual blade user was then shown riding a Kelby through the Coral Highlands. And despite the fact that our fabric of reality keeps our world separate from other dimensions before it, there are many ways the fabric of reality can become unstable, usually due to large fluctuations of strange energy, or certain creatures possessing otherworldly abilities that may allow them to breach the borders of other dimensions. Sai explained as a yellow and black swirling portal was seen. And when these things happen, we may encounter creatures beyond anything we've seen before, even beyond our comprehension, such as the monstrous beast known as the Behemoth. The Sapphire Star declared as a massive, muscular, canine-like beast with long horns. There are other things beside you guys that can travel between universes? Awesome, Nora said in amazement. Unless they turn out to be hostile, Ironwood pointed out. Then they'd better know how to put up a good fight, Hazel declared, cracking his knuckles. But then, they saw the mighty beast from another world. Holy shit, that thing is jacked. Yam exclaimed. It looks like a dog from hell. Blake shrieked in fear. No, hellhounds either look like wolves with no fur and rat tails or humanoid dogs. Teko corrected, giggling as Blake face-bombed. Still, it is quite strange to see a canine with horns, Ashbin admitted.
Oh, trust me.
That's far from the weirdest thing about it, Razara told him. Teko was then seen speaking to Aiden's handler in Astra. Now, we'll get to the Behemoth in due time, but first, we must speak of events leading up to the Behemoth's appearance. A short time after the defeat of Xenojiva, who you may remember is a massive infant elder dragon almost entirely composed of massive amounts of bioenergy, my good friend Aiden and his handler reported changes in the environment, as well as sightings of strange creatures unlike anything we'd ever seen in our world before, such as the Kakshur. Living humanoid cactus creatures that seem to be forever stuck in the crosswalk goal pose. Sai began as, indeed, a tiny human cactus could be seen running away at high speeds. They're mostly docile for the most part, but will attack if they are disturbed. Something some hunters actually take advantage of by luring a monster to a cactuar and kicking the creature, causing it to shoot thousands of cactus needles to harm anything in range. The host added as Teko caused a large cactuar to shoot needles out to attack an Anjanath. Well, that's different, Rin said, unsure of what else to say. I think you mean odd. Cinder told him, a bit off-put by the creature. I think you mean adorable, Velvet cried out. Just look at it. It looks like a cartoon character when they're caught in freeze frame after they've been running. Neo giggled. Ah, I want to hug it, but I don't want to get stuck with needles. RWBY whined. Either way, they're absolutely adorable and must be protected at all costs. Kira said as she gushed over the creature. I absolutely cannot understand your criteria when it comes to cute. Weiss told the Cinnamon Trio. Then, said Trio and several others, Neo, Winter, Summer, Penny, gasped in horror as they saw Teko kick the cactus creature. Teko, how could you? Velvet demanded, half horrified, half furious as Demon Scion Hybrid shrank down nervously. Hey, I mean, if it gets you a leg up against a giant monster, I say do what you have to, Roman said. Suddenly, he found Hush's blade pointing into his neck slightly. You sure about that, dum-dum? Neo questioned dangerously. I would like to retract my previous statement, he said nervously. An adorable, fluffy creature was then seen guarding a giant blue crystal. Another otherworldly creature that was discovered was a Moogle, an adorable feline-like creature with a pom-pom on top of its head. And it was guarding a large crystal composed of ether, an energy very similar to bioenergy, being a source of life and even magic. Yes, magic exists in the world they come from. But unfortunately, such a tiny creature doesn't stand much of a chance against monsters 10 times its size, like the Kuliaku that saw the big, shiny crystal, wanted it, and snatched it for itself. The dual blades user informed as, indeed, the oversized chicken ran in, grabbed the crystal, and swatted the Moogle away with its tail, which was very bad, as magic is unpredictable and affects everything differently. In this case, gradually making the bird wyvern larger until it was eventually the size of a Deviljo, and nearly as powerful as one. To boot, Sai exclaimed as, the crystal caused the Kuliaku to double in size. Then the mood was brought back up when they saw the Moogle. Oh my gosh, so cute. All of the girls, even the stoic Glinda and Winter, cried out all at once. It's like an adorable flying kitty. Summer squealed, and that pom-pom is adorable. I want one. Nora exclaimed. We must find this Eorzea world and procure Mogles for Remnant. Winter declared. I think that's kidnapping. Or illegal animal trafficking. John said nervously, causing the girls to all deflate. A source of magic great enough to allow travel between realms. And the source of life itself. Fascinating, Ashbin said in awe. Imagine what we could learn from studying such a crystal, Ironwood said, equally amazed. More than just weapons, so you had better look beyond those purposes if you ever were to get the chance to study it, James. Katana warned. Oh, of course, the general said nervously. But then, the group witnessed the Kulu steal the crystal from the poor Moogle. Kulu, how could you steal from something so adorable? Kira scolded the chicken-like monster. Yeah, that isn't an egg. You can't eat it, so leave it alone. Velvet told it harshly. How dare you, oversized chicken. Someone slay that thieving poultry immediately. Weiss snapped. But none of them were prepared when they saw the Kulu nearly double in size. Holy crap, this magic stuff is insane. Emerald said in awe and disbelief. I've seen from Salem that magic can be unpredictable, but I never expected anything like this. Cinder said, equally shocked. But that should be impossible. The square-cubed law would dictate as its size doubled, the surface area becoming 2 squared, or multiplied by 4. The volume would become cubed, or multiplied by a factor of 8. And its mass would increase in the same way, becoming 8 times heavier as its size merely doubles. And a Deviljo is at least 8 times the size of a Kuliaku, and that's without even factoring in heat loss.
Penny exclaimed, "Kid,
I'm pretty sure we've already established these monsters kick science and physics in the dick. And that's before we start dealing with magic. Anything goes now."
Crow told the gynoid.
Tekko was then seen combating the oversized chicken as it held onto the crystal. Now, I was still recovering after almost dying to Xenojiva, but thankfully my niece Tekko stepped in and made that giant chicken into a rotisserie. The host praised as the longsword wielder brought down the giant chicken. The group was then seen having a meeting with the Moogle. However, that was only the beginning of our problem, as the ether crystal and its incredible power was creating a rift between our world and the world of Eorzea, where they come from. And more creatures were slowly being drawn to our realm. But the worst one was a creature that was first drawn into our world along with the Moogle itself. One of the most dangerous and feared creatures in all of Eorzea, the Behemoth. The sapphire star declared as a massive meteor plummeted from the sky, crashing down in the Elder's recess, the monstrous creature standing where the meteor should have landed. Most of the female cast nodded in approval as they saw Tekko defeat the oversized Kulu. Excellent work, Tekko. You did a great justice sending that infernal egg snatcher to meet its maker. I'd say that makes up for kicking that Cactuar earlier. Glinda praised, the ones who cooed over the Cactuar, reluctantly, nodding in agreement. So, how was fighting this supersized beast? Was it a worthy challenge? Hazel asked. I'd call it a pain in the ass, honestly. It was jumping way further, and every single hit either almost or did knock me out. It hit that hard, Tekko said, before thinking for a moment. So, for a psycho like you that doesn't feel pain, I'd say it would be a blast for you, she pointed out. Then, many of them were curious, but also cautious when they heard a portal to Eorzea was still letting creatures in. So, based on the Cactuar and Moogle, Eorzea doesn't seem like a place with too many big threats, right? Coco asked. Did you forget that apparently at least one of these creatures can supposedly match the Tallies? Weiss demanded. And finally, they witnessed the creature in all its terrifying glory. That's the Behemoth? John asked fearfully. Its eyes are just blank white. They look totally lifeless, like it has no soul. Ilya cried out. Giant dog. Blake said in horror, her prey instinct going into overdrive. Dog. Blake, it looks like a demon, Velvet exclaimed fearfully, prey instinct going haywire much like Blake's. I want to get behind the couch, but I'm too scared to even move, she cried out, Blake nodding slowly in terrified agreement. The Behemoth was now shown from several angles. Now, in terms of visuals, the Behemoth is pretty straightforward. It's just a massive, absurdly muscular, purple, vaguely canine-like creature that is mostly hairless, with the exception of a black mane running from its head down its back to the end of its thick tail, the hair extending from the tail in nasty, barb-like hairs. Although, it's apparent they skip leg day, as their lower body is far less muscular than their upper body. But that isn't much of a concern, as on the end of all of their paws are razor-sharp claws that could inflict deep wounds with ease. The dual blades user said as certain points of interest on its body were focused on. Yang whistled at the sight of the beast's muscular form. Gotta admit, that's one swole monster. As a fellow powerhouse, I gotta pay my respects, Yang admitted, showing off her own guns. Except those scrawny hind legs. I bet RWBY has more muscle in her legs than that. Nora declared, one of the big benefits of a speed semblance. RWBY said proudly.
Yikes.
Those hairs on its tail look pretty gnarly. Like a bunch of whips at the end of its tail. Roman pointed out. Now I'm just wondering what's sharper. Those claws or my sword? Adam asked challengingly. That's not the part your sword will be bouncing off, Razara said cryptically. Several different versions of Behemoth were seen in combat with several different heroes. As for their behavior, it's difficult to say, as currently, there is between 16 and 20 different worlds we know of that contain behemoths. Sometimes, they're simply wild animals roaming the wilderness, while in other worlds, They're bipedal and capable of using weapons, used as guards by tyrannical villains, and even a few worlds where they are biomechanical monstrosities used by the military. Sai explained, finishing by showing a behemoth plated with futuristic armor, appearing to have guns mounted on the armor. 16 different worlds. That's insane. Neo said in disbelief. Remember, everyone, it's the multiverse. It's pretty much infinite. 16 is just the number of worlds we know of, Katana told them. Still, crazy just how different they get between worlds. The wild animals was about what I expected, but I didn't see it coming when they stood up, carried swords, and be soldiers for supervillains. Pretty badass,
Crow said.
but then they saw the cybernetic ones. That one, though, is just bad. As in disturbing. Why would someone do that to these things? Cinder asked, unnerved. It's horrible. Like what we saw of that despicable Dr. Manelger in Sai's lore on Riders. Pyrrha said in disgust. Winter then looked to Ironwood. I trust you see what's wrong with doing this to these creatures now, sir? She questioned the general. I saw already back with Manelger. Like Pyrrha had said, Ironwood told her, before sighing.
But yes,
More than ever now, I'm seeing the problem with it. Controlling them with machinery, causing them pain, and basically turning them into slaves. That's something that should never be considered, even as a last resort. I'm honestly troubled I might have even considered resorting to this at any point. The general admitted, feeling ill at the thought of himself commanding an army of cybernetically enslaved monsters. Tekko was now seen in combat with the beast. But the one constant between worlds, and the reason more isn't known about them, is that they're insanely aggressive and will attack any living thing they see on sight, so not a lot of people want to go out into the wilderness to study them like researchers of the Commission. And our world is not safe from their aggression, either, as Behemoth's very arrival to the Elder's recess resulted in destruction of the immediate area, and his first action upon his arrival was to kill and eat a Dodogama. The Sapphire Star exclaimed in horror as a poor Dodogama was seen in the beast's jaws. Everything then went black and white as a rain poured down on the scene, accompanied by tragic music. I have a question for God. WHYYYYYYYYY. Sai cried out in anguish, collapsing to his knees in despair. Many in the cast were horrified at the sight of the dead chunky BOI in the beast's mouth. Dodo, no. The fans of the best BOI, basically everyone except Weiss, Adam, Hazel, Oshpin, and Ironwood, all cried out in despair. It could have been any monster. Why did it have to be him? Ruby wept, hugging Summer and crying into her chest. Fate is such a cruel mistress. Summer sobbed along with her daughter. But to everyone's surprise, Velvet stood up, her former fear now replaced with a primal fury. Put that disgusting devil down, Sides. She roared while pointing at the screen. Sai was now seen in combat against the beast. So, obviously, with this monster having committed the greatest atrocity possible, we had to bring an unholy wrath down upon this monstrosity. However, that proved to be difficult, as its giant gains are so rock hard, even the sharpest weapons bouncing off. And the horns are also incredibly difficult to damage, making attacking its face a chore. And those same muscles obviously mean it hits like a freight train, even the strongest armor struggling to withstand its attacks. Those attacks coming in the form of paw swipes, dragging shoulder charges, leaping pounce attacks, swiping his tail at someone behind him, or a 360 tail spin if he's surrounded, or crashing his massive body down on you, sending you skidding across the ground, wide open to a follow-up attack if it hits, and shaking the ground to throw you off balance if you're too close. And if it catches you with a headbutt, it will pin you and grind you into the ground, causing significant bleeding, the host warned as he struggled against these attacks. Okay, we knew he was jacked, but his muscles being so dense weapons can't cut them? That's insane. John exclaimed. I know, right? Not even I'm that ripped. Yang said in disbelief.
but I am.
Now things are finally getting interesting, Hazel said with a crazed smirk. Although, at least for now, its methods of attack aren't too bizarre. Certainly nothing we haven't seen before, Penny pointed out. Still, that pin attack seems particularly brutal. especially combined with the fact it will be grinding you into sharp crystals along with its razor-sharp claws. That can't be too fun, Crow pointed out. The host was now part of a group of hunters fighting the beast, but its focus was locked on him. Also, don't make the mistake of believing that because it's a big, hulking, muscular beast that it's stupid, because that is not the case. Behemoth is quite intelligent and is aware of who the biggest threat is when it's facing multiple targets, and whoever is currently doing the most damage will gain the beast's enmity, and it will single them out and focus its attacks on them, bringing its full fury on whoever dared bring it harm. The dual blades user informed as he struggled to avoid the beast's fury. Isolating specific targets. Well, that already makes them smarter than most Grimm, Glinda said. Still, in a large enough group, that's as much of a detriment as it is an advantage, Ashvin pointed out. What are you talking about mints for? Roman asked. He said detriment, as in harmful or disadvantageous. Idiot. Because in a big group, others can attack it while he's focusing on his one target. Since the behemoth was now glowing blue, creating small whirlwinds to chase Sai. But its physical abilities are the least of your worries. As you may remember, Behemoth comes from a world capable of using magic. And Behemoth capable as well, able to call down meteors from the sky like crimson fatales, even multiple meteors to attack multiple targets, the fiery impact burning whoever was hit. It can call down bolts of lightning from the sky like Kirin, multiple bolts striking a large area of the battlefield all at once. In addition, it can also channel destructive magic energy into the ground to create huge explosions, either in a wide area directly in front of it, or great distances in a straight line. But the most irritating of all is Charybdis, where it will create whirlwinds to follow someone, before creating a mighty tornado like Kashala Deora on their position that lasts for several minutes, and he can conjure 3 or 4 of them at a time, turning the area into a minefield. And if left alone long enough, it will start healing with magic, the Sapphire Star explained, avoiding the spells. Oh, right. Almost forgot about the whole magic thing, Ruby admitted sheepishly. And raining down meteors is just what he starts with. That's pretty insane, Coco said, both amazed and unnerved. It is quite unnerving that his basic attack is something that a version of Fatali's uses. Ren agreed, equally unsettled. Not to mention that much lightning is insane. Even Kirin can only do a small ring, one big bolt, or a straight line, not a huge area like that, Ilias said in disbelief. But that just means I'd be his worst enemy, because he'd just power me up. Nora declared. Don't forget, Nora. You have a limit to how much you can absorb, and all those bolts could easily surpass your limit, Kira told her, causing the bubbly girl to gulp a bit. Those energy waves are pretty crazy, too, especially the long-range one, Neo said in awe. On the other hand, that would be perfect to charge my moon slice. Then he'd be finished, Adam said confidently. You know that's not an insta-kill, right? Yam would block it in the future so it can be survived. So, you'd probably just wind up pissing Behemoth off, Razara told him.
Damn.
You could feel Sai's anger when he talked about those tornadoes, Emerald pointed out. Can you blame him? An arena filled with tornadoes sounds like a nightmare. At least Kashalas get pulled into each other and dissipate. He already said it's basically a minefield. And the only thing worse than being stuck in a minefield is being stuck in a minefield with a giant monster attacking you, Winter said. He can heal, too. That's just cheating, Ruby complained. Meteors, tornadoes, healing. This is new levels of absurdity. Weiss growled with a strained look on her face, before taking a deep breath, trying to compose herself. The entire area was now glowing red as Behemoth charged a mighty spell. But all of this completely pales in comparison to his ultimate move, the Ecliptic Meteor, where he will summon an enormous meteor supercharged with destructive energy that will wipe out everything in the entire biome, similar to Safijiva's Sapphire of the Emperor, impossible to dodge or block, nor can you simply run out of the area to avoid it, unless you can run all the way back to base camp and hide in the tent or the canteen in the 9 seconds it takes for the meteor to drop, which is unlikely. The host warned as a massive meteor crashed down, sending a wave of red energy that destroyed everything and even left him defeated. The cast had a wide range of reactions, but one immediately stood out from them. That has to be the most absurd, impossible ability I've ever seen. Weiss snapped, before realizing something, taking a deep breath and composing herself. Or at least it would be if it was a normal ability. But it's magic, so anything can happen with that, so I guess it makes sense. She admitted, accepting the abilities the beast displayed. She was pretty much the only one, however, as the rest of the crew, even the thrill seekers, were horrified by this attack. "Dear brothers," Ashvin said in horror, "an attack like that would obliterate even the strongest veteran huntsmen and huntresses out there. No one's aura would be strong enough to tank that. And once that goes, you wouldn't be far behind," Crow said, greatly unnerved. "And that time frame is so narrow. No one would be able to escape," Penny said with dread in her voice. "I don't even believe bullheads would be fast enough to escape the blast radius," Ironwood said in alarm.
Heh.
"I bet I could get away with my semblance," Ruby said confidently. "I'm not entirely sure about that, Ruby. You might make it to the campground, but just barely. The meteor would still touch down before you completely reach safety. Then, the shockwave would send you flying with so much force that your aura would shatter once you crashed into something. And probably all of your bones, too," Katana told her, the very idea chilling Ruby to the core and make her cuddle close to her mother, quivering in fear. Sai was then seen running behind a large comet. There are only two viable options for surviving this attack. The first being to hide behind one of several large comets Behemoth will summon down to try and crush you, which will remain on the battlefield as a small obstacle. However, these comets can be destroyed by Behemoth's attacks, so you have to be sure to avoid them until you need them for cover. And the second option is to use a technique taught to us by the Mogles, used by the Dragoons of Eorzea, the jump technique, leaping up to very clouds with a magic energy spear and avoiding the devastation on the ground, before crashing back down on your opponent with said spear. However, this is a last resort if there are no comets to hide behind, as precision is everything with this technique, and even a single second too late or too soon will have you either not making it out of the blast or diving straight into it. The Sapphire Star advised as he repeatedly demonstrated the impressive leaping technique. "So, there's ways out of it. Why didn't you say that before? You practically gave us heart attacks," John complained to Sai on the screen. "To be fair, I don't think we would have taken the attack quite as seriously if you just said, 'Oh, but it's okay. Just hide behind a rock,'" Adam admitted. "Still wouldn't be anything to scoff at, but it certainly does seem less horrifying now, as long as you don't let anything happen to those comets," Cinder admitted.
But wow.
"That jumping ability is so cool," Nora said in awe. "I bet you'd be pretty good at that technique, Bun Bun," Coco said to her girlfriend. "Good thing he's doing it over and over. Now I can get some good pics," Velvet said, taking several shots of the ability. The host was now stood around in Astra. "So, how do you send this creature to the deepest pits of hell where it belongs?" "Simple. You call Sephiroth and have him deal with it," Sai declared, before the sound of a phone ringing was heard. A gorgeous, one man with long silver hair and a single giant raven wing was seen, answering the phone.
Sai.
"Well, it's certainly been a while," he greeted the Sapphire Star on the other end. "Ooh, hello there, eye candy," Yang said, purring. Meanwhile, Katana narrowed her eyes, as Yang had apparently forgot whose man that was. Sai laughed happily, trying to sound happy to hear Sephiroth's voice. "Hey there, Sephi. How's my favorite brother-in-law doing today? You know, I shouldn't even say brother-in-law. I like you more than my actual brothers," the host said sweetly, clearly trying to flatter the swordsman on the other line, to the point it was painfully obvious. Then, hearing the words brother-in-law has them pick up on him being Katana's husband, to which she reminds them she has multiple lovers and husbands, reminding them both her daughters have different dads. The words brother-in-law were a quick reminder, however.
"Oh, right.
He's your hubby?" Yang said to Katana, deflating a bit. "How did you forget that? honestly?" the hostess asked. "Well, we've seen you flirt more with that Estef lady, so," Ilya explained.
Yes.
"And I've told and shown you several times that I have multiple lovers. Or did you forget all of my daughters have different fathers?" the ice demon questioned. "To be fair, we've been seeing and learning a lot in the week or so we've been here already. Some information was bound to get lost," Kira admitted. Sephiroth simply sighed at Sai's attempt at flattery. "So, what is it you need now?" the one-winged angel asked, immediately seeing through the flattery. The dual blades user groaned at his flattery failing. "I was just hoping you could come help out with a behemoth. You know, should be no trouble for someone as powerful and skilled as you," Sai explained, clearly still trying to appear to Sephiroth's ego. The swordsman chuckled a bit at this, enjoying the hyping up.
No.
"I have more important things to do," Sephiroth suddenly refused, flexing his sword. Sai was baffled at this response.
What?
"What do you mean no? What else is more important that you could possibly have to do?" he demanded, stomping in frustration at the long-haired man's refusal. Sephiroth chuckled deviously at this. "Your sister," the one-winged angel declared, causing Sai to collapse from emotional damage. Ugh. The less mature of the cast all screamed at Sephiroth's epic retort.
Oh.
"He got him so good." Nora cackled. "I don't think there's enough ice in the world to heal that burn." Roman laughed. "Yeah, he pretty much walked right into that one." Summer giggled. "Sephi, you are so in the doghouse tonight." Katana grumbled with her cheeks dusted a light pink. The host eventually recovered and grumbled at Sephiroth's refusal.
Fine.
"I'll do it myself. Thankfully, I know of two lovely otherworldly ladies who share their intimate knowledge with me." "Knowledge of Behemoth," Sai declared, showing off lightning, as well as a woman who seemed like a witch. So, as has been said multiple times, Behemoth comes from a world of magic and has been hit with all forms of elemental magic and has built a resistance to it, fire and thunder having little effect on him, and, while ice and water are decent, he can still resist them. But the dragon element is something unique to this world Behemoth has never encountered before and has built up no resistance to it, so that's your best bet. In addition, all ailments are decently effective across the board, the host explained as he managed to knock the beast down and broke one of its horns. Crow let out a whistle upon seeing the two women's side had intimate knowledge with. "Hey, say what you will about the guy, but Sai has a fine taste in women," the former drunk said with a smirk. The three fully adult women groaned at Crow's perverted statement. "Crow, please limit your disgusting comments in front of the students," Glinda ordered. "This was one of my baby's main role models." Summer lamented. "I'm gonna kill that pig one of these days." "It's not a matter of if, only when," Winter growled under her breath. "We've seen lightning a few times before, but who's that other woman?" Blake asked. "And what is she wearing?" "That's not an outfit. That's a slingshot. One of her boobs just has a tiny heart-shaped pasty covering it," she asked, going into a lesbian panic with a massive blush as she noted the rather revealing outfit. "That's the Cloud of Darkness. Although, nowadays, she calls herself Griselda. And, in the universe she comes from, she is the literal embodiment of darkness. Her main goal was to balance light and darkness and return everything to the void, which would effectively erase everything from existence and destroy the universe she came from," Katana explained, the crew gaining looks of disbelief and horror. Then, an event happened that pulled heroes and villains from several universes together to fight for two gods, Cosmos the goddess of harmony, and Chaos the god of discord. And Sai and I were among those heroes. It's where I met Sephi, and Sai met Griselda. And, to make a long story short, both of our RWBY games are strong, the hostess elaborated, causing those dropped jaws to hit the floor. "So, you rizzed up a guy who wanted to punch open a planet with a meteor?" Coco asked. "That would be correct," the ice demon confirmed. "And Sai got with a woman who wanted to erase her entire universe." Penny asked incredulously. "That was the turn of events, yes," Katana confirmed once again. Again, everyone's jaws hit the floor. I'm starting to think this whole bloodline is insane.
Pyrrha said to Weiss.
You're only starting to? Weiss questioned. Ashbin then cleared his throat. Moving on, I suppose it makes sense that it is weak to dragon element, since it's never encountered it before. Hard to resist something you've never experienced, he said, everyone simply nodding in agreement as they just tried to move on from the insanity that was the Blades' love lives. The dual Blades user was repeatedly jumping off of ledges and sliding down slopes to use his buzzsaw attack on the beast. But while preparation is important, strategy is everything when it comes to fighting this otherworldly abomination. And trust me, I know this sounds unprofessional, and I hate myself for saying this, but you need to treat it like a raid boss in an RPG. The Sapphire Star sighed at the insanity of his statement as he managed to cut the creature's tail off. 3 different versions of an anthropomorphic weasel were seen: a hip scientist, an ancient philosopher, and a robot. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, the scientist weasel said in bewilderment as the philosopher weasel shook his head at the absurdity of the statement. The gamers in the audience quickly got excited when they heard this.
Yes.
I knew video game strategies could be applied to real life. RWBY cheered. Heck yeah. I can show off why I'm such a master at games like those, and why I'm a badass in real life. Yang exclaimed excitedly. I love being a red mage when I play RPGs. John said, equally excited. Too bad I can't do that IRL,
he said sadly.
Did they forget just how devastating this thing is? Ironwood asked in disbelief. Well, at least that put their fears at ease, Adams said with a shrug. Sai was now hunting the beast in a group again.
So, what do I mean by that?
Well, first, you should hunt the monster in a full team of 4. It can be defeated by singular hunters, but only by the most elite of the elite, and even then, it's quite the tall order. One team member should make themselves a tank and take the role of the instigator, doing the most damage and gaining Behemoth's enmity to get him to focus on them. A second party member should be designated as the healer, hanging back and restoring their allies with life powder and dust of life. Meanwhile, the other 2 should focus on breaking Behemoth's parts, such as his front legs, his horns, or severing his tail. Also, when you are targeted by Charybdis, you should run to the edge of the area, so the tornado touches down out of the way of the main fight. And when he drops a comet on you, you should run to whatever side the tornadoes are not on, keeping them safe and out of the way until the ecliptic meteor, the host explained as the team was quickly overwhelming the beast. The Illuminati, minus Crow, not exactly being gamers, simply looked at each other in confusion. Does anyone have any idea what he's saying? Glinda asked. When he's not talking in video game terms, I have a decent idea. But once he starts with the terms, I'm lost, Ashbin said uncertainly. Meanwhile, with the gamers, of course, that's the best way to round out a team of 4. Someone to tank the damage, someone to heal the damage, and 2 people to deal the damage. RWBY said, completely understanding. It makes so much sense now. And it's so simple. I can't believe we were ever worried. Yang agreed, fully understanding. A pretty standard strategy, but if it's not broke, don't fix it. John agreed as well. I can't believe we didn't think of that with the tornadoes when we first heard about them. Just move to the sides so the battlefield stays clear. Neo groaned, face palming at the realization. I think we were all just concerned with the idea of tornadoes being all around the battlefield. We didn't stop to think of how to mitigate just how much of a nightmare they'd be to deal with. Hazel said. The group hid behind comets to avoid the ecliptic meteor again. And after everything you put him through, Behemoth is too proud to die by the hands of a mere human. He will summon a final ecliptic meteor, dropping it directly down upon himself. Still hoping to take the hunters out, of course, but more importantly, robbing them of the honor of bringing him down. Sai declared as the meteor crashed down, the only one to die being the one who called the meteor.
Yes.
Suffer for what you've done to Dodogama. Penny shouted at the monster. I don't know if we can really cheer for that. It's not like the hunters triumphed over the beast. It went out on its own terms, Brun said, the defeat of the beast feeling sour. That's so messed up it would take its own life like that. Velvet said, disturbed. Agreed. Is its pride really so important it can't let itself be captured or even just slain by its opponents? At least that way, it went out fighting, Summer said, equally unnerved. I don't know, some, like ninja boy over there said, it's going out on its own terms. And that's honestly the best way you can go out. Crow told her. Indeed. Not to mention, it's the ultimate insult to a warrior. Being denied the honor of slaying their opponent, being robbed of a true victory. Adam agreed. Sai now stood in the Behemoth armor, brandishing a spear as an insect glaive. And the Behemoth armor and weapon are modeled after the armor of the dragoons and the spear they wield. Very stylish and very intimidating. Although, I do have to point out the obvious problem with the female armor, the fact that the entire stomach is open and vulnerable. For those that don't know, this is the body cavity, and it's where a good chunk of your vital organs are. So, hopefully you can understand why that's a part of the body you really want to protect and shouldn't have a giant opening in your armor to expose. The host criticized, showing Razara wearing the female armor, which had exposed arms and, indeed, a giant opening that left their tummy completely exposed.
Whoa.
That's pretty sweet armor, John said in amazement. Definitely. Nice and sleek. And I'm digging the helmet. Definitely gives off dragon vibes, Coco said approvingly. Although I do have to agree with Sai. An opening in your armor in such a vital area is a rather foolish idea, Winter admitted. But it's cute. Look at the three of us. All of our tummies are showing. And we're adorable, Emerald said, wrapping her arms around Blake and Ilya's shoulder, Ilya having changed out of her catsuit and into her Volume 6 outfit.
Oh, man.
That spear looks super cool. I love the glowing tips, Ruby said in awe. It has points on both ends. And, while I doubt they're intended to be used as weapons, the wing and spike on the sides of the blade could also be used defensively, so it's more like a halberd in that regard. Fascinating. Piran marveled at the weapon as well. The Sapphire Star was now stood around peacefully now that the danger had passed. Yes, Behemoth is certainly a challenge, but since the Moogle and its crystal is gone, the portal to Eorzea has closed, and it's almost impossible for a Behemoth to get back through. So I don't think we'll be seeing one of them again anytime soon. Sai sighed in relief as he finally began to relax. Suddenly, a record scratch was heard as Aiden was shown. Actually, Sai, we just got reports of another Behemoth, this one even stronger than the last one. It's totally Bohigus, the ace hunter informed, trying to mix Behemoth's name into bogus for a pun.
One.
Hearing this, Sai quickly fell to his knees. No! He cried out in despair as he collapsed to all fours. The more rational of the cast could only groan in frustration at the news of a stronger Behemoth. Oh, you've got to be kidding me, Summer groaned. How is it even possible for there to be a stronger version of that? Ironwood questioned. How is it possible you didn't see this coming? At this point, it's more surprising when there isn't a variant or stronger version of the monsters we hear about. Crow said the host was in a group fighting Behemoth once again. So, yes, there is another version of Behemoth known as the Extreme Behemoth, although there's no real way to tell the difference until you're already fighting it. For the most part, it's exactly the same, but its magic is amped up to 11. It can cast magic far more often than the normal one, and the spells are cast twice as fast as the original. In addition, the meteors are slightly larger and will now corrode the armor of the target if they are hit, weakening their defense. And when chased to a dead end for the final area of the battle, Extreme Behemoth will survive casting the Ecliptic Meteor, so he'll keep fighting for a while and then cast another one, so you'll have to endure 2 Ecliptic Meteors. So you better make sure you can get him to drop plenty of comets. There is no special strategies for this guy. Just do what you did for the first one, but pick it up to the extreme, the host warned as the team endured the beast's onslaught. Oh, well, that's not so bad. I was expecting the meteors to chase you like heat-seeking missiles or something, John admitted. Still, that's nothing to dismiss so easily. Bigger meteors coming in faster, more often, and they weaken your armor? That is quite daunting. Especially for those who cannot move at hypersonic speeds like the majority of us, Penny pointed out. But at least it can't corrode our auras. So that's no issue for us. Hazel countered confidently. No, but I'm willing to bet the corrosive properties will likely burn and cause injury that way. Cinder told him. Not to mention it would likely sting and distract anyone except you. She continued, before stopping when she realized Hazel's semblance shuts down pain, so that particular issue wouldn't affect him. The two ecliptic meteors is certainly concerning, but at least he doesn't do them back to back, so you have a chance to get him to drop more comments. Blake said. That still doesn't make it any less terrifying or devastating. Velvet said fearfully. But enduring it and surviving is just another way to show that you're a true warrior who can withstand anything that gets thrown at you, Adam declared. Sai was then seen stood in the Elder's recess. But I've run out of patience for this thing, so I'm just gonna end it right now, the Sapphire Star declared, pulling his arms back and charging some kind of strange energy. Zeta flare. Sai roared in fury as he fired a massive laser beam at the beast, resulting in an explosion that immediately ended the monster's reign of terror. Then the cast is left in confusion to why Sai never used that key beam in the first place when dealing with strong monsters. Once again, all of their jaws were on the floor at Sai's display of power. Holy shit, that was epic. Like something right out of Wyvern Sphere X. Nora exclaimed. He could do that this whole time. Why has he never done that before? Winter demanded.
Yeah.
That should be his go-to move. Yang said in disbelief. Well, Teko said uncomfortably as Katana winced and Razara uncomfortably rubbed her arm, looking away from the screen. All of Sai's usual comrades were shocked at this display of power. You could have done that this whole time? Aiden asked in disbelief, only for it to be revealed that Sai had collapsed to the ground, the sound of a flatline being heard. Oh, dear Elatrian. Someone get a medic. The ace hunter cried out as they all began to panic. They were now left in a stunned silence as they saw Sai lying lifeless on the ground. However, some could only shift awkwardly as their question was answered.
Oh,
that's why.
Coco said.
So, does that attack, like, steal your life force or something? Like Phyrexian mana in D&D? RWBY asked. Well, not exactly, but it's one of the most powerful spells in the universe. And it requires a massive amount of energy. Even god-level beings have to be careful about using such a powerful technique with such drawbacks. At best, you're lucky to only be exhausted after using it. High-end, well, you saw what happened to Uncle Sai. Razara informed them. The magic of other realms is truly both awe-inspiring and greatly unnerving. To be respected and feared. Ashvin said. Everything then went black, but text then appeared to assure everyone that Sai will live. The group could only sigh in relief at this. Thank goodness. They all said, their worries starting to ease. Sai, don't scare me like that again, brother. Katana said quietly to herself. The behemoth was then seen from several angles one more time. So there you have it, everyone. That is the behemoth. It's an interesting creature, far different than anything we've faced before, because it is quite literally something from another world. But that is why it must be destroyed. It is not from our world, and does not belong here, as it is a danger to everything we know and love, especially our precious Dodagama. Sai finished as the behemoth brought down one final ecliptic meteor, finally ending its fury and laying itself to a permanent rest.
Yes.
We must keep the dodos safe at all costs. RWBY declared. Right. Highest priority. Kira agreed. Right. Winter, Summer, and Velvet agreed, nodding resolutely. Shouldn't our highest priority be the protection of the people, not monsters? Ironwood reminded them, only to receive a menacing death glare from the Dodo fans, with an aura of pure fury behind them. Highest priority, indeed. He nervously agreed. Okay, let's get this out the way before I ask for your thoughts. This thing ain't coming to Remnant, Katana told them, a sigh of relief coming from a majority of the crowd. Good. That thing is more like a demon than a monster. I'll never forgive it for what it did to that Dodagama. RWBY insisted. Oh, come on, guys. Sure, that ecliptic meteor thing was pretty scary, but it's not that bad. Sai even said, All you've got to do is hide behind a big rock or jump real high. Other than that, it's a piece of cake. Yang said, the other thrill seekers nodding in agreement. As long as you keep the tornadoes out of the way, and aren't constantly being staggered by its tremor attacks, or blasted by a giant field of lightning or destructive energy. Glinda listed all the other problems. Simply more obstacles to overcome, Hazel said. Or that could easily destroy you, Ashvin countered. It's not even like it's using magic all the time. And when it isn't, its attacks are pretty basic. Crow argued. As far as we've seen. Not to mention it can also inflict giant bleeding wounds with ease. Summer gave her rebuttal. Well, as Katana has already stated, we won't be dealing with them, so there's no point in arguing about it. Glinda said with finality to end the argument. Everyone nodded while the thrill seekers sighed in disappointment. I can't believe Ice Princess over there didn't finally lose her mind. If anything could do it, I thought it would be this thing, Coco said, a bit disappointed. Weiss-Eye twitched for a moment, before she took a deep breath. Well, as I stated previously, the Behemoth uses magic which can do just about anything. So it is actually less ludicrous than something like Bishatin with all those fruits. The heiress explained. Besides, this thing is from a completely different world, so it can't really be classed as an elder dragon or a non-elder dragon. So, even if Weiss did finally lose it, it wouldn't have counted and no one would have won the bet. Katana informed them. You're on their side? I thought you were trying to be as accommodating as possible to all of us. Weiss complained in irritation. Let's move on before she busts a gasket over something that isn't even monster-related. What's up next? Roman asked.
Oh.
Well, next I think will be a favorite of the Shnees in particular. But not so much for Blake and Velvet. Katana said, the sisters perking up while the two faunus girls shrank down a bit. It's as cold as the ice around it, mysterious as the howls in the night, and as dangerous as a pack of wolves. Lynn Nagrin, the ice demonist declared, starting the next video.